And we're back with the second part of why Rosario Vampire Anime needs a reboot and not a season 3. So now we're heading into season 2. How big that we practically skipped over well over a dozen over two, probably something that can consider to be 3 dozen chapters that were in Rosario Vampire 1 and losing a whole lot of content. And I'm going to explain as the video goes along why that's a bit of a huge problem. But let's focus on how the anime does Season 2. So in Season 2, Tsukune's mostly had a dream about his feelings about the two mochas, outer mocha and inner mocha. And he feels that it's probably a bad idea. He probably is reluctant to confront her about it because the inner mocha would probably punish him for even having the audacity of trying to start a relationship with her. And then the next thing, notable thing that happens is that Tsukune meets Kokwa in the same fashion that he met Mocha. How very innovative. In the manga, Tsukune met Kokwa after she had saved him from this beast that looked like a combination between a boar and a wolf, I believe. And Kokwa in the anime, is aggressive towards Tsukune, mostly being because he introduced himself in a somewhat perverted way of inadvertently touching her inappropriately for the sake of fans, because the writers prefer to have fan service over character development. But in the manga, Coco was actually moderately nicer to Tsukune. With the worst being she was indifferent towards him. And it starts with her in the anime with the newspaper club getting back together with the reunion, and Kokua more or less meeting them all one by one and giving her opinions about them, how she views the monsters lowly about them, which to be fair is pretty much Kokua's opinion. She did view that all monsters outside vampires were beneath her and Mocha because they were pure-blooded vampires, and vampires are shown as to be the supreme monsters. And yeah, so let's recap. We got Koka being introduced in the same fashion as how he met Mocha, instead of how she was properly introduced. We got more than 3 dozen chapters practically thrown aside just for the anime to do whatever it wants. And that's going to lead to huge problems. And the second episode deals with the whole newspaper club meeting Kokoa, and Kokoa wanting to fight Mocha so she can actually meet her what she considers her real sister, Inner Mocha, the true Mocha. And that more or less went the same route as the manga, except the whole update with a few filler stuff, such as they're trying to set up that Ruby and Gin were going to fight Coco, and considering that Ruby was a powerful witch and Gin was a werewolf, that would have most likely been enough to take down a vampire, especially one that's inexperienced as Cocoa. But they just use it as a gag for fan service, well, ultimately being pointless. And The next episode has the parents of Kurumu and Mizre, Sarara and Aga meeting Skune and wanted them to be the son-in-law. excuse me. Now that did happen in the manga, but that happened near the end of season 1 in the manga. So yeah, you've already mixed up the order of how this all went. And they also added that they had this love rivalry, and they're trying to pretty much live that out through their own children. Yeah. Agatha Kurino and Surara Shiraiki did have a bit of a rivalry, but that was because they wanted Skune to choose their respective daughters. Agatha wanted Kurimu to marry Skune, and Surara wanted Mizure to marry Skune. But aside from that, they pretty much got along with each other. There was no further hostility towards them. And let's see. They also admitted the Yakuza trying to rape Mocha, which will lead up to a bigger thing with the Lilith arc. And I'll get back to that when we get to the Lilith arc done by the anime. So next we have a bunch of filler episodes. One about no. I think the first filler episode we had is a huge thing to talk about. Yukari is feeling insecure about how Skune feels about her. That she's just too young and juvenile for Skune to actually develop mature feelings for her, and she wants to have a mature body like the other girls. And so this nurse named Mako injects this bodily fluid into her so she can have a fully developed body, more or less, and attract Skune, but she doesn't seem to be doing it so, despite Skune subtly showing that he does have sexual feelings for Yukari now. And Yukari being insecure about the whole about the physical examinations when she learns that her breasts are still smaller than Kurumu's, despite being the second biggest in the whole school. She then tries to have them enhanced even further by Mako, but Mako says that she's not helping her. She was just using her to stir up some negative emotions, especially when she knew that Skune would reject her because she's not a mature person or whatever, and they haven't. And then she falls unconscious, and Mako is taken out by Mocha off screen while we just focus on Yukari, blah blah blah. And it ends off with Yukari supposedly on the inside being mature and kissing Skune. Yeah, there are some problems with that. The first being that some of these concepts did eventually end up in the manga, but would Skune ever acknowledge Yukari as a full-fledged woman instead of just a younger kid and possibly like a little sister? But that was that was later in the manga, when after they met Fong Fong and they ended up switching bodies and what have you, and Kurumu instilled that insecurity. And Skune eventually told her that he values Yukari equally among the girls. And on top of that, we have Mako, who's doing this contrived plan of trying to stir up negative emotions, The reason why it's completely contrived is because it relies on Tsukune not embracing sexual feelings towards Yukari. And what if that did happen? Then her plan would have been completely screwed over. And furthermore, Mako was part of the antithesis group who were planning on taking over the school and wiping out all the pure-blooded monsters, and then going to attack humanity. For it was this whole other complicated thing. Speaking of antithesis, yes, let's also talk about that. What's back with Saizao. In the manga, Saizao had joined Antithesis to help get revenge on Tsukune for humiliating him alongside Mocha. So, and he could also get Mocha and more or less make her his slave with benefits. Yeah. In the anime, they make it seem that he's good now. No explanation, no development. He's just good now. Yeah, in the manga, he was still a bad guy. He still got beat, and the antithesis group beat him to death. Now, should be more than enough evidence to prove that the anime is already so deviated from the manga that it cannot possibly try to catch up with it without adding numerous problems. And back to the whole Coco episode thing, we also were established that excuse me, that Mocha had three sisters, Coco being the youngest, Mocha being the second youngest. Then she had two older sisters, which would be revealed in the manga as Kahlua and Aqua. And we never get to see them in the second season of Rosario Vampire. Probably some of you were expecting that maybe they could show them in season 3. But we don't even get so much as a mention of them. It's like they were completely forgotten after that. They just keep focusing on Cocoa, trying to get Intermocha back, and just to hang out with her or what have you. They ruined the development of that, because the reason Coco was so obsessed with trying to get Intermocha back because she idolized her, and she had an inferiority complex where her family looked down at her because she was relatively weak compared to the other vampires, and she wanted to be seen as an equal, and that's why she wanted to challenge Mocha and be strong and seen as strong as one of her sisters. And she ultimately ends up proving it by, albeit with the help of Kurumu and Mizre, by defeating Kahlua, and thus she feels that she's become a full-fledged sister that they can be proud of. There's more, but I'm slowly running out of time, so we'll talk more about this in part 3.